testing, testing.
We're about to start the next session. Hello, guys. Hello. So we're about to wrap things up. And I will introduce the moderator for the session. Rutendo Chigora will be moderating this session. She is a Rhodes Scholar from Zimbabwe, reading for the Master of Public Policy at the Blavatnik School of Government at Oxford, this school, and is also one of the chairs of this year's Oxford Africa conference, this conference. She runs an a community economic development nonprofit in Zimbabwe that won the Social Venture Challenge at the Clinton Global Initiatives University conference, and has experience working in public and economic think tanks as well as investment management. Rutendo holds an undergraduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania and has a keen interest in driving growth in Africa through synergies between the private and public sectors. Rutendo?
Hi, everyone. So I am moderating and very, very honored to be moderating the final panel for today. It would have been a panel if our second person was here, and he might join us, or he might...
He's here in spirit.
Or he might be in the room and you don't even know it. So Anas might be joining us halfway through. But this closing panel is really kind of to round up this weekend. Some of the things we've talked about around challenging narratives and all the different synergies between business and governance and youth leadership that we've discussed. We just want to round it up. And I think there's no better person to help us do that than Jason here. Jason is the CEO of Iroko TV, which is the largest internet TV service provider on the continent. He's the person that if you find Nigerian movies on your flight on Emirates, he put it there. And he's very well known for having raised a significant amount of money, just 40 million, from international venture capital, just because he had this idea to provide a platform to share Nigerian content, and he really is a curator of culture. So I'm very proud to be introducing him to you and having a conversation with him about his experiences building his business, about his experience and maybe some of the responsibilities that come with being a curator of culture, and how he interacts with the people that are producing the content, and also how he's sustaining some of the growth of his company. So I hope that this is a conversation that you can join after we get a few questions in, so you can ask Jason anything you need to know. So I guess we'll start by saying, well, tell us about your business. How would you describe the work that you do?
So obviously, thank you for having me here. It's been a couple of years you guys have been emailing me, but I'm here now. So no, I think really simply, we are the bridge between Nigerian culture in movies and music, and the communities who love them. So wherever those people are. Hearing me? Okay. Hello, hello. Is this better? Yeah, so we are the, we connect communities. People around the world love Nigerian movies and music. Wherever they are, we build products. And, you know, as you said, we create those products in a way which we hope will be really entertaining for them. And, yeah, we just connect them. So if they're in the US, Jamaica, India, Malaysia, London, wherever they are in the world, we try to lead them to content that we think that they'll love.
Right. So I want to start the conversation perhaps on the business end of this, and thinking about how it is that you've managed to navigate, I guess, kind of the world of venture capital and pitching an idea about a place that's usually a recipient of a lot of content, right? A lot of movies are going into Africa and people are consuming culture from outside of it. And so I'm just wondering about that experience of having to translate this idea that, hey, we are going to produce this, there's going to be this content, and we want to convey it not just to other Africans, but to the world.
So I think, like, look, most people, when they see Nollywood movies for the first time, they completely disregard them. Until they actually look at the data. And the data says a resounding perspective that it just dominates all types of content groups, definitely in Africa. Irrespective of which part of Africa you're in, if you're in West Africa, French-speaking Africa, South Africa, East Africa, it doesn't matter. It basically dominates it. Versus Premiership crushes it. Versus Disney crushes it. Versus like any content group which is imported into Africa, it basically just crushes it. But I think it's something that people were unable to actually make that connection between something which is incredibly popular and something which somehow doesn't look like it's popular. So there's been a general lack of respect for Nollywood. Again, Nollywood is something where people either love it or they completely disregard it. There is kind of no in between. So even in the Nigerian community where it essentially came from, you have Nigerians who like live by Nollywood. Then there is a whole bunch of people who just think it's like it's like a national embarrassment. Obviously we don't care about the latter group. But yeah, I think it's really easy. When we first did our Series A, Tiger asked McKinsey to go across South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria. They asked about things about 1,000 people. What content do you like? And in Nigeria, it was 67% was Nollywood. In Kenya, 42% was Nollywood. In South Africa, like 36% was Nollywood. The lower you go down the sort of the economic pyramid, it increasingly dominated. So again, if you look at the big pay TV platforms, they all have like 7 or 8 different Nollywood channels. Those Nollywood channels always trend towards the higher. So this needed to be pointed in the right direction of the actual data, and it was obvious that there was something of massive influence there. I think one of the sort of like the bittersweet things about Nigeria is just that it's an incredibly rough place to do business. So it wasn't somewhere where a lot of the big international brands had spent any particular amount of time trying to cultivate. I've been there 5 years. I still find it incredibly difficult. So yeah, it's a massively kind of fragmented industry. It's completely relationship based, and it's something which, again, you roll back 2010, no one was really thinking about it. So when I first landed in Lagos, Netflix didn't have a streaming service. Hulu had just come out. YouTube didn't have more than 15-minute videos. So back then it was less evident there was anything there. But what we did know, obviously, that there was a big population. People loved it. And there was just they just believed that this guy has some way to be able to like connect these people.
All right, now you said something about how as you go further down the pyramid, it seems to get more popular. And I also imagine that because it's internet-based, and in a lot of places around the continent, internet access is more expensive, or it's inaccessible for some people. So I'm just wondering, what are the challenges that come with operating in an environment where the platform that you're using to put out the content is also not as accessible?
It comes down to patience. Again, when you start a new venture, you don't expect to, get rich tomorrow. You expect to take time. So I started my first company in 2004. I've now been doing entrepreneurial things for the last 12 years. So I've always had a healthy respect for like just patience and what it takes to build like a big business. When I also think about 2010 when I landed, I realized that internet was incredibly expensive, and it definitely was for the 1 percentile. Fast forward 5 years, internet is still relatively expensive. It is now for the 5 percentile. So it's still, in terms of my business in Africa, it's not ready yet. I think in terms of the entire sort of story and the narrative and the revenue of Iroko, our Nigerian business probably contributed less than like 3 or 4%. So it's a very small part of our business. But if you look forward in like 5-10 years time, I would expect it to be like 90% of my business. And again, it's actually last time I was in Oxford, I was at one of my investors had a mobile telecom conference. There was a Dubai-based consultant. They were responsible for helping Econet and some of the other telcos at the time launch GSM services in Nigeria. By his own admission, he felt that the total size of the GSM or 3G market in Nigeria, maximum in a decade, was like 20 million. And they gave these, you know how consultants are. They gave all these like massive logic and presentations and all this kind of like crazy, funky stuff with the view that it's going to be 20 million. Fast forward 10 years, it was like 120 million. So they were completely wrong. They completely underestimated it. So I think the way the world looks today, fast forward 10 years time will look completely different. So as a company, we have patience. We have a very long-term view of the content. We are completely obsessed with the content. I'm like the biggest evangelist of the content out there. So the view is that in 10 years' time, it will look completely different than it is today. And what's important to us is that we kind of build the foundation, so when that thing does move, you know, a Netflix or a Fox or somebody else doesn't come and think they can just roll over us.
So we've spoken a lot this weekend about entrepreneurship and innovation, and we have young people here presenting some of their ideas and trying to get some traction in that direction. And you spoke a little bit about how, well, you start a business and you can't expect to get rich immediately. But where is the patient capital? Right? Where is the capital on the continent for people who have ideas that may not be get-rich-quick schemes, and that need that kind of time and need for other systems around their area to develop before they can really make the kind of impact or have the kind of reach that they're looking to have?
So I think capital is impatient if you allow it to be impatient. So when a lot of young people with ideas and ambitions come to me and ask me, how am I going to do it? How am I going to find capital? I said, you know what? Find customers. If you have customers, you're going to be okay. As long as you're servicing them, as long as you're actually bringing value to the world, find customers. My story is peculiar in terms of how I raised capital, so it was really kind of peculiar. And I think it was probably too sudden, and it's definitely not normal. But I think if you have something of value, at some point, someone will come along and see that you have something of value. So it's really, really important that people just focus on the fundamentals of building an amazing business and not worry about raising money, because essentially, raising $40 million, it's basically corporate begging. So I'm like a really skilled beggar. It's not nice. It's not glamorous. You have to sort of justify that every single time. You have people who can call you up and ask you stupid questions, and you have to somehow smile and accept those questions. So, I think probably my biggest challenge and my biggest concern for the young people of Nigeria is the fact that they believe that you can just hammer, that you can be, going along your life day to day, and then one day money will just come out and you'll be like a millionaire, So, I would strongly suggest people don't think about capital in terms of raising it. They should find some customers and find some value. I think from my perspective, I've raised a lot of money. When I look forward, would I ever raise money like this again? Absolutely not. It's not worth it at all.
All right. Now, our second panelist has just joined us. And
Jules with us.
And so we're going to switch direction a little bit in terms of what we're speaking about. But feel free to bring up a lot of what Jason has conveyed in your questions when we get into it. But please help me welcome Anas to the panel. So this is perhaps an unlikely kind of panel combination, but
That's making me scared. So I know why you're doing this, but where I'm from, if someone's sitting next to you like this, it's the blood of Jesus.
Jesus. Amen.
So you're a Christian, right?
I'm Muslim.
You're Muslim. Oh, okay, there you go. But it's fine as long as you're not believing in the local gods. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, it's on. Yeah.
great. All right. Now Anas has a video that he would like to show us. While we're getting that set up, are you still showing the video? Okay, great. So Anas has a video that he would like to show us, but while we're waiting for that to happen, just to explain this combination, I think we were thinking about young leaders and people who are challenging narratives in really, really significant ways, and I think that the work that you're doing, Jason, does exactly that, right? You're kind of pushing out this content and making sure that this culture is disseminated, right, in ways that haven't been done in the same way before. And Anas is doing work around making sure that people know the truth, and making sure that people's rights as consumers, as citizens, are being respected, and when they're not, he's going to name and shame. So this is kind of why this panel came together the way that it did. So just to make sure that you understand why there's such an uncanny combination here. So maybe let's move into the film that Anas brought to show us, and then move into a different kind of conversation. Sure. So Anas would like to introduce the content before it starts, and I think do we need to get the lights?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anas Arimiyaw Anas. I'm an undercover journalist from Ghana. I have gone undercover and played many, many roles. Anonymity has always been my secret weapon. I've done investigation in most countries in Africa. And I'm not your usual journalist. I do my work differently. What I do is that I name, shame, and jail. Those are the three things I do. It is not what a normal journalist will do. What we are supposed to do traditionally is to inform people. But like I've always said, my journalism is a product of my people. When I say I name, shame, and jail, I mean to say that I combine my efforts with state security agencies so that at the end of the day, the bad guys in society are arrested and then they are put behind bars. I go to the court of law and I testify. And by doing this, I've taken many people to jail. The Chinese sex mafia, they are in jail for 45 years. The human for sale dons are in jail for 8 years. The Ricardo cocaine bust, they are also in jail for another 8 years. Then many, many people have gone to jail as a result of the work I do. I've also played many roles undercover. I've gone undercover as a patient in a psychiatric hospital. I've gone undercover as a prison inmate and have exposed some of the rots within the prison. I've played many, many roles on the African continent. I believe that the next slides of video would help highlight. But before I even go to the videos, I know some of you might be thinking that, look, what is this? Perhaps this is not journalism. Yes, you're entitled to that opinion. But like I've always said, I won't allow anybody to come from America or Britain to come and define for me what journalism is. For me, journalism is about my people. What my people say is journalism is what is journalism. What is the point in doing journalism that doesn't benefit society? And I know that it's very painful to have done a story in your community and then you end up walking on the same street with the same bad guys that you have published stories about. Like I've always said, when you take our African continent, you acknowledge the fact that we have serious problems with institutions and everything. Just as I complain as a journalist that perhaps I do not have enough funds to do my work, I also know that the police in my country are complaining. I also know that the judiciary has its own problems. So what is the point if we all decide to take one step forward and meet halfway to solve society's problems? So you see, I don't believe in the old paradigm of journalism. I don't. Because it doesn't work. I've read copiously around the world. I've read everything. I've seen all the ethics and all the things that they talk about. And I say it just doesn't work. We do stories that end up empowering the bad guys in society to take us on. So I have said that if I say you're a bad person, you've stolen something, I tell you, I show you the hidden camera evidence of when you plotted it, how you executed it, and arrest you and put you behind bars. That is what I do. It might sound draconian, but I can tell you it works. Look, I have looked carefully into our society, and I think that that is what will work. We will use the following video to illustrate some of the points that I have made. Please proceed. What you've just seen was my experience in a Sawan prison. I tell you, in this place, it was really difficult. It was a difficult time. I ended up documenting some hard evidence. And I can tell you, some of the prison inmates and the prison wardens are currently in jail as we speak. Madhouse was a story I did, and I was a patient at the psychiatric hospital. Ended up documenting a lot of human rights abuses. And as we speak, the place has gotten some facelifts. And again, the bad guys there are in jail as I speak to you. So, because of our time, we have decided to fast forward. Unfortunately, we have to do so that we can catch up with our time. There's so much to talk about. We have very small time. So, yes.
Plans to give him a dose of his own medicine.
So what you are seeing is Nigeria's fake doctors. We're in Nigeria with my colleagues.
Anas lifts
And
off the bed and follows him.
what we
The
tried to
police
do was
forced him
to
to
talk
wear
to
his
was to
stethoscope
investigate
publicly shame him
a
as
sham
fake doctor.
doctor.
Say you are a doctor, put it in your neck. Put it in your neck.
Who this doctor had a hospital, children's hospital, and he uses old syringes and needles to inject people. And many people had died
and
in his
Rabuni
hospital.
investigate the Nigerian conmen promising to cure infertility and the maternity clinics selling babies for cash.
What you are seeing now, proceed.
We are going undercover.
What you are seeing now is a baby selling syndicate, also investigated in Nigeria. And these guys had been doing this for so long a time, and we had to apply the same principle: name, shame, and jail. Eventually, we managed to have them
Our
arrested.
investigation has
And
shone
as I
a light
speak,
on parts of a sinister network.
they are in there
It
and they are
involves
waiting
genuine doctors
prosecution.
and cynical staff in orphanages who will sell vulnerable children to the highest payer.
Okay. You prepare a hidden camera for me.
Every man who carried it off.
Doesn't matter who you are, wherever you are hiding, I come with my cameras.
Al Jazeera has been recording what happened.
At the end of the investigations, we got 34 judges.
Ajet Nassam is one of Ghana's most senior judges, sitting in the High Court and dealing with the most important cases. In Tamale, northern Ghana, Anas's investigators went to see if they could influence the outcome of a rape case. It was an appeal hearing.
This is Ansuji Abo. Ansuji Abo is a well-respected High Court judge.
The judge is anxious nobody should know that he accepted the cash.
I beg you, let this thing remain listening.
Okay, my lord. Okay. John Enda Bugri is one of a number of lawyers acting for the judges named and shamed in the film. Thousands of people have been given free tickets to see the undercover epic, which features 34 judges filmed allegedly accepting bribes. A police convoy escorts Anas's car because he's received several death threats.
This is Justice Derry. He's one of the judges who have really tormented me in this investigation. He's filed many, many suits. This is Mayo. He actually said that normally it's 10,000 plus when you're dealing with the likes of Justice Derry because he's a big judge.
Newly qualified graduates are called to the bar in Ghana. This is a joyful occasion, but Anas's expose has also cast a major cloud over the proceedings. The saga has not impressed the Chief Justice.
Sometimes it takes a spark, just a spark. And I think Anas has provided that spark for the whole edifice to blow up, for people to wake up and say, no more. Something has to be done.
Okay, so what you saw is the judicial scandal. 34 judges were involved in this scandal and 146 judicial staff involved. Over 2 years, I had documented evidence using the hidden camera of many of these judges taking bribes. It was quite an enormous task, but the aim did not change. You see, judges are the gods in the guise of men, and they are the last hope of society. So when I went undercover on those occasions, my point is that how can we keep our hope together in society if people who are crooked are allowed to rule us? And I kept on asking myself that perhaps maybe the wars we are having on the African continent, talk of Liberia, talk of Sierra Leone, talk of the genocide we had in Rwanda, maybe if as journalists we had just tried to ask questions, we had tried to probe, maybe we wouldn't be having such problems. We are in the habit of always believing that some of these institutions are sacrosanct. But I can tell you, when we begin to ask those probing questions, we're going to see that we have real problems, and it doesn't matter where. And I keep saying that the days of parachute journalism are over. It's about time African journalists, we take up the mantle on our own and start asking the real questions of our people. Nobody can tell our story better than us. It's up to us to lift up and make sure that we push the frontiers of democracy. I keep saying that whatever happens in our various countries are extreme diseases. They are hurting the people. They are creating, people are dying each day because of these bad people we have with us on the continent. And if we want to turn down as an extreme disease, then you also have to find something different to deal with that extreme disease. So I have chosen to belong to that remedy that cures the extreme disease. Thank you very much.
So I think we've heard what Anas has to say about telling stories. Jason, would you like to weigh in? I had actually a question for you, which was like, we know why it's important for him to tell those stories. Why is it important for you to be providing a platform for stories to be told? But if you have another point to weigh in.
Yeah, no. Like, I think it's amazing what you did. Come to Nigeria, there's plenty of work for you.
Thank you.
No, seriously, there's plenty of work. If you want to expose criminality on a systematic scale, come to Nigeria. Actually, so Chude's not in the room. He's gone. So if you were at Chude's panel before, he said that us cowardly businessmen in Nigeria, we don't stand up against or for the little man. You know, I think what you did here in Ghana, I think is amazing. I think I would love for some people to sort of like push those kind of agendas at the political class in Nigeria. I'm a coward, so I won't be amongst them. No, but I think activism is incredibly powerful. I think as a businessman, I have largely shied away from that. You know, I live full-time in Lagos. It's an incredibly lawless place. And I think I'm not at a stage in my life where I'm willing to put myself out there. So, you know, kudos for you for being one of those who are willing to do that. So I think on behalf of all of us, we thank your sacrifices. But now I'm going to talk about entertainment, and it kind of feels like there's this powerful message, and I'm talking about entertainment. But at the same time, entertainment is super important. And I think if you go around sub-Saharan Africa and you speak to most people, their expectations, their aspirations, their ambitions can be captured in what they see Nigeria as being in terms of proud, loud, and just incredibly sort of like energetic. So, you know, if you think about the brand Nigeria, I think it's the musicians and the movie stars and the culture which has been exported. Again, if you go to if you go to sort of like the far-flung areas of anywhere in Africa, you will find those churches. You know, I spent a lot of time in Johannesburg, and people in Johannesburg feel that the pastors in Lagos are closer to God, so they'll jump on a plane and they'll go to Lagos and they'll find the new kind of salvation. So, you know, I think as someone who kind of like is obsessed with culture, someone who is definitely big about expanding that culture, I think providing sort of people time to just sit down and, you know, beyond obviously the terrible challenges we're having in Africa, Nigeria especially, is to just sort of find some escapism for that. So I know we definitely need to be, you know, proactive. We definitely need to do our own. But sometimes we need to just go to one corner and enjoy a movie or something like that as well. So, it's a balance, right? It's a balance.
All right, so we're going to open it up to questions for the next few minutes. We'll take 3 questions at a time, and then we'll have our panelists respond. So.
Hi, my name is Penelope, and this question is to Anas. You do great work, but I just wanted to ask, in the most nicest way possible, how do you remain sane? Because obviously you do work with, like, we know the hardships of Africa. If you've come from Africa, we know that's not, the things that you're exposing are not new. You're just the person who's willing to put your life up for it. But how do you remain sane and, you know, this goes with saying sometimes you need a movie to watch and escape, but honestly, on an emotional level, that must be stressful. And how do you come back to earth? And, you know, like, it's quite scary.
Mine is just a quick comment on Anas, and I'm also one of the people who admire what you are doing. But I think there's another element of your work that you've not spoken about, which is also important, especially in the case of the judges. There were a few, or a significant number of judges who did not take bribe, although they were offered. And I was wondering if you could talk a bit more about that, the positive side of some of your discoveries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask a question to Anas. What you're doing is really amazing, and a part of it, which hasn't been spoken actually up to now, is how do you take the investigative journalism and your findings to the next level? You know, how do you reach to those people, particularly when you are working on issues that involve powerful people in the politics? You know, how do you find those that are clean and are willing to take action? A country I came from, Ethiopia, even ministers, I know ministers that are imprisoned because they tried to do something right and try to identify other corrupted higher officials. So how do you do that? Thank you.
Well, I guess I have to deal with the first question, maybe the second first, about the judges and the positive sides. If you will know, the very first time the Chief Justice issued a statement on this issue, it was very clear from our stable that there were honest ones who we named also, and we felt that it is just fair. And we didn't just say that in the vacuum. There was evidence to show that they were honest at that time that we went to them. And I think that it's not good to just state that all the judges are corrupt. That's not it, because that's not what the investigation showed. The investigation showed that there were a lot of good ones also who, indeed, that's the hope we have as a country, that not all is gone. We still have very powerful and strong ones. And you see, the other positive side is that this has emboldened the good ones. And if you know what is happening in Ghana today, you know that the system has been cleaned and people have become more confident, instead of the debate that came up where people thought that this might end up eroding that edifice and killing it forever. So it's always better to shine light. I mean, whichever way, whichever interpretation anybody gives, it is better to shine the lights. Now, the first question dealt with what's the motivation, how do you unwind? I must say that usually the motivation comes from the people. You know, is it work that people are satisfied about? That's how I get motivated. That's how it's really, that's the point you described. Sometimes you get into the story and it's very difficult. It's so heavy. It's so dark, like somebody would put it. And we try to when you impact on one life alone, that keeps you going. It gives you a renewed energy, renewed focus to continue. It can be lonely too, and it can be deadly, all that. At the end of the day, if you realize that you have impacted on the lives of that group of people, then you are able to move on. There was a third question. Moderator, if you could remind me of third question from this row. Yes, taking it to the next level. In fact, we are at the next level. Because traditionally, the job of the journalist would have just been to inform. That's it. Now, I take it to that next level where I collaborate with state security agencies. We do our best. And I go and testify at the court of law. Look, to be honest with you, today, it is not just about publishing a story. It's easy. As far as I am concerned, if you have the story, it's just to publish and go and sit somewhere. But even these judges have appeared before all the 18 committees that have been set up. And it's not as if you are picking a crime and hanging it on the neck of anybody. No. It's a process. That judge you are accusing has the right to lawyers. And I go there and one judge has 6 lawyers. They cross-examine me thoroughly about the evidence that I claim I have gotten about them. At the end of the day, we all will speak. The committee together will take a decision as to whether what I did was fair or unfair. So it's not just that, okay, I have said it, so that's it. And that's what I love about my kind of journalism. It's open up for public scrutiny. It's open up. The person who is being accused has a right to counsel. And counsel has a right to cross-examine me whichever direction. At the end of the day, if he is found guilty, so be it. And I'm glad so far the process has gone on. And it's a very painful process that perhaps an ordinary journalist might not be willing to go through. But if you really want to impact on society, if you really want to get to push the frontiers of democracy, you ought to be prepared to sacrifice and to allow these processes to go on successfully. Thank you.
All right, we'll only take one more question from the floor before we close it off. 2? All right, we'll make it 2.
Hi, my name is Anne. My question is for Jason. I found it interesting that you sort of said, differentiated between entertainment and the documentaries that NAS does. I mean, seeing that Netflix sort of has lots of entertainment, but documentaries as well, are you sort of hoping Record TV will be a hub where you can find entertainment, but also find educational documentaries as well? Or are you sort of wanting it to be just solely entertainment? Because I think it could be honestly both. And I think seeing as it's already such a big name, Africans would rather, come to a name they already know to find sort of all sorts of content as well, similar to Netflix or Amazon Prime and things like that.
And my question is for Jason. So, as an internet-based company, who basically you get most of your revenue from people that use the internet to access the things that you put online, do you think you have sort of like a responsibility, so to speak, to challenge the internet providers in Africa, in Nigeria, especially, to provide better quality internet and at cheaper rates, considering we have one of the highest and most expensive internet in the world? And do you think you have a sort of responsibility to challenge that and to make them start rethinking how they give and provide services to the people that are mostly using your services?
Actually, so let me start with your question. I wouldn't say it's a responsibility. I would go as far as to say they have a business to run, they have margins to accept. I think as an entrepreneur, I need to find a way around them. So if the barrier to my company's success is the mobile telecom networks or the ISPs in Nigeria. We've tried to dance with them over the last few years. It's been incredibly difficult. We have to find a way around them, and we are currently finding a way around them. I think for the most part, because of the high data costs, most people don't do things over the internet. It's easier for them to do things friends to friend, SD cards, HD drives. So there's ways you can go around that actual sort of data problem, and we're kind of like thinking about how we can do that. But again, 5 years ago, the internet was more expensive. Now it's less expensive. 5 years' time, it'll be more or less expensive. And I guess the nature of capitalism is that the more players there are, the more the prices go down. And the prices will go down, but it'll just take time.
So I just want to push you a little on that, because I do think that she's onto something here, that this idea that sometimes your sector is dependent on other sectors, right? And so is the solution to wait it out, right? To let that sector develop at the pace that it needs to? Or is it about collaborating on sector development, right? Seeing that the sectors that are complementary to the work that you're doing are developing in the right way. So I do wonder if there is a little bit of a responsibility, right? If you're going to make progress in the way that you want and maybe expand your Nigerian market or your local market even more, maybe it's about complementary sector development.
So collaborations, partnerships, they all sound like really beautiful, and they sing off the tongue. But dealing with Nigerian companies, right? Let's first and foremost, they don't do business as much as they tell you this is how it's going to be. So today, any of the mobile networks in Nigeria won't allow you to have a business. They want you to provide all of the services. They also want 80%. They're not willing to share their data revenues. So if I literally wanted to guarantee that I'll never make money in Nigeria, I'll embrace a telco and do a deal with those guys. So again, like, you know, sector development, policy making. It's Nigeria. Like people are all about themselves for the most part, especially businesses. So our view is that we have spent 2 or 3 years trying to work with these people. We'll have to find a way around them. It's pretty simple. So you know, I've gone throughout English-speaking Africa, speaking to different telcos, and it's still the same thing. The biggest taxpayers typically in most markets are like telecom companies. They literally have some of the biggest businesses. And you're not going to tell someone who's taking $1 billion a year in profits out of Nigeria, this is how you're going to run your P&L. They're not going to listen to you. So I think there has largely been weak regulation in Nigeria. It's historically been like that. You know, Nigerians are largely being taken advantage of when it comes to especially telecoms services. Obviously, we've seen what MTN had with a 5.7 billion dollar fine. So I think, like, I'll let the big boys duke it out. I'll find a way to get around them. In 5 years' time, they won't be sort of an issue. So again, my view is that you can do what you can. You can definitely try and collaborate. But if the other person basically wants to screw you, then you just have to keep it moving. So I think that's kind of like where we are on most things. To answer your question, so I am actually a massive fan of documentaries. But our audience is so demanding. We once put a Ugandan movie on our platform. They rebelled. If you see the kind of curses that they brought down on my family, like, it was no joke. Like, if they haven't got their Mercy, if they haven't got their Tonto, if they haven't got their Genevieve, if they haven't got those things, then you're taking their money, you're not giving them anything. So they're incredibly demanding. Would I love to expand the narrative? Absolutely. Today, does it make financial sense? No, it doesn't. And I think if you go into Netflix today and you look at all of their content, the vast majority of it isn't just documentaries. I think one thing Nigerians, and I think most Africans are really interested in is actually news. So like real-time news, like Channels TV, you know, anything sort of like with a political nature, they're really, really interested in that. But at the same time, that interest is quite sort of like real-time rather than I'm going to sit down and watch a documentary. So ultimately, like our audience has very little money. They've given us the opportunity to, you know, transact with them. So we need to just basically give them what they want, at least for now. I think with time, as our audience gets significantly larger, we can kind of fragment that and go into other areas and stuff. But today, if we put a documentary on Iroko TV, I'll be sort of doing what he's doing at the moment with hiding my identity.
I think that we have not really engaged well with Jason and his block of people, because at all costs, if we want to send a message, and I'm talking from a journalistic point of view, we ought to listen to the likes of Jason to tell us exactly how we can shape our narrative to suit the audience. I see a synergy here. How do we put that together? Because it's happening elsewhere. Why can't it happen on the African continent? I think that my documentaries are not boring. I can tell you can watch it from back to back, and they are not boring, because I have spoken to people and I know how it can be shaped to make it look more attractive. Maybe I'm here to learn more from Jason, but he's got to tell me what his audience wants. It doesn't mean that we are bending the story. No. We want more people to be aware of that educative piece in that documentary. How do we put our energies together to ensure that we reach to most of the people on the continent? I think that's how we should be looking at things.
I absolutely agree. So who's watched Parks and Recreation? Like Parks and Recreation, it's a US show. It's like they basically make a joke out of a ministry or some sort of like public sector thing. I thought that was amazing. I thought, you know what, we should do that in Nigeria. Call it like the ministry, because they don't really do very much at the ministries. It's just like they're there kind of pushing paper, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I thought it'd be absolutely hilarious. My wife said, calm down. It's that it's not in this night. Again, like, I'm 5 years in Nigeria. She's a lifetime in Nigeria. And she was like, look, there is a way you will embarrass someone that they will just fuck you up. And it's not no, it's a joke, but it's like, it's not USAID, the British government. No, they can't come when Nigerians will do something in Nigeria, they'll do it. They'll do it. And the context is, she lost her younger sister to Boko Haram in 2011. What happened? Nothing. So I think sometimes you can definitely shape a narrative. I think we can definitely tell stories. But as a Nigerian living in Lagos, knowing how things happen in Lagos, like I'm literally in Accra like 5 or 6 times a year. I go to Accra to just get away from Lagos. It's like safe. Whereas in Nigeria, like every week there's like political assassinations, people are like disappearing. It's like fucking Wild West out there. So in as much as I love Parks and Recreation, you're doing like this. But I'm there. Are you there? No problem. Then they will see ourselves. But the thing is that I would love to tell stories which like push that agenda. But at this point in my life, I don't have the courage that this guy has. I'm kind of make rent and pay school fees, and at least for now, let me just keep things moving. That's the honest truth.
How did Virunga work? It's an African story, and I was amazed at the number of people who were hooked into watching that piece, and they came from Africa. So there must be something we are not doing right. Maybe as documentary guys, or maybe there's something we have to get right in order to reach our audience. I think it's there. We just ought to find it. And all of us must leave our comfort zone a little bit and come together. In that way, we can reach the masses.
Just quickly, just to confirm, that is the story about poaching in Vurugu. That's the documentary on Netflix, right? Okay, just quickly, who watched that documentary? Vurugu, it's about the national park somewhere in East Africa. I can't remember which one it was. What's that? No, that's not the one. It's okay. So it's an amazing documentary. Like, I watch documentaries. I genuinely think they're amazing. But again, like, it's us shaping our stories, not for people who care about gorillas. Like, for example, in Nigeria, if you have a story about gorillas, they're like, Shebi is bushmeat. You just fry that one, cook it up, add salt, add pepper, chop up. It's like like we have other things to think about. So like it's, and I'll keep on coming back to this. Like I have traveled throughout, like Black Africa, Nigeria is just different. So whatever happens outside of Nigeria, for me, it's like Mickey Mouse and Disneyland. Nigeria is just different. The people are different. The tribal things are different. Like people die every single day. They're like dying. Like it's just things are just different in Nigeria. So I think if we want to mold stories based on the Nigerian narrative, then you need to be one maybe sitting in London or New York and be transporting in there or something like that.
It occurs to me we are failing if we can't find that problem with Nigeria. We've got to find it. It may be very difficult, but we've got to find it. We have to just find that problem and make sure that we can reach out. And I'm not talking as a visitor. I've worked in Nigeria, done many documentaries there. And I'm saying that there is something...
Oga, have you done political documentaries in Nigeria?
I don't think I want to restrict my work to politics.
No, of course not. But,
I think
Oga, if you want,
I want to talk about issues that affect the people.
I agree, but the people are getting raped since 1960 by the politicians.
Yes.
See that doctor thing you did there?
That is true.
That is amazing. That is amazing. But we have no fuel. We have no FX.
Yes.
These are issues which are being affected at the highest levels of government.
Exactly.
Oga, I don't have the courage, so I'm just talking. But come to Nigeria. Go to Asuwok. Like, leave that there.
Look, guys, it may sound very difficult. But we've got to be pushing from somewhere. We can't sit down and put our hands at our backs and say it's a helpless situation. I don't think it is. I think that as people, we can come together, find that problem that is there, and push the frontiers. That's what I'm saying.
All right, so I think people want to get in on this conversation, and I only have time for one round of questions. So... all right, so I'm going to take the question right here. I'm going to take the question in the back from Mark, and I'm going to take a question from Naledi over there.
Yeah, thank you. Do I start?
Thank you very much. It's been really entertaining watching the conversations, and also at the same time, it's very moving to know that there are people with courage to report about some of the outrageous things that are happening on the ground, and that it's important to call other people's attention to that and to expose wrongness when it's done. Just to support Anas on your investigative journalism, I would like to just tell you about a really funny person on radio called Hembelembe. And this guy is operating in Nigeria and exposing wrong when it's done and encouraging for justice to rectify situations. So I think, please don't feel alone in that. Know that there are other people like you trying to do this work. I also want to make a comment about social responsibility. I think when we have a chance as Africans, it's very important to use whatever avenue we have to make sure that we really put social responsibility in the forefront. So we need action. Thank you.
If we want to get some answers, we're going to have to keep it brief. So please be succinct in your questions and comments.
Thank you for the presentation. Jackson, I think, please, Nigeria is not as bad as it looks like. But one thing, you're a businessman, Jackson. My name is Chinedu, and I was born and bred in Nigeria. I'm studying here. Let me get to the question to be brief. So with the point I needed, I think we are missing it. This panel is about the narratives. And I want to challenge you. How is the Iroko and the rest controlling or regulating the content of whatever you chunk out? You know, it's one thing to, Nollywood is good in business, but the content, does it actually portray the real African? Are we all about witchcraft? Are we all about making loves? I was born and bred in that country. There's a moral responsibility to you. How are you going to control whatever chunks out that people don't misunderstand us or misinterpret whatever we are and who we are in terms of whatever? It's not about making money at the time.
My name is Susan. I've been undercover for the last 2 days from Fox News. I don't want to be disrespectful at all because I think it's amazing what you're doing, Anas, but the point I tried to make with that joke was everybody has to be Anas. It's a bit like Banksy with graffiti. Banksy was completely invisible, but he was everywhere. Every piece of graffiti that went up was that Banksy? Is he in New York? Is he in London? So if the thought goes in people's mind doing business in Africa, am I actually talking to Anas? Do I have to be careful? If that's in the back of their mind, that's when you've really made, I would have thought, the jump in the level, that everybody is Anas. A bit like Spartacus.
One of the challenges that we experience with Nollywood is this reinforcement of the stereotype that you would have to be Christian. I'm concerned, and maybe I don't watch enough of it because I can't, but I worry sometimes that, as the other guy has just pointed out, that if we re-stereotype Africa again in a way that is going to portray us as people who are stuck. If you do culture, you are stuck in an African way, or you are not Christian. There is a problem with that. I really would want to invite you and say, just make sure that whatever you put out there is not going to re-missionarize us again, or put us in a particular context where the levels of people and what they believe in or not believe in is none of anybody's business, by the way we celebrate it. So I worry that we try to push a particular line, and it's so obvious. And you don't want children now in Africa to feel that for you to be accepted, you have to be African, you have to be Christian, or you have to be Muslim, or whatever it is. So I'm very concerned about that, but I might be wrong because I don't watch enough of it.
Okay, so in closing, I'm going to make sort of three remarks, I guess. In December 2015, I believe about 400 Shia Muslims were killed in Zaire, in Nigeria, by the Nigerian government, by Nigerian soldiers. It lit up Twitter. I think the UN and various other people wrote amazing reports demonstrating that. And nothing happened. Not a soldier was investigated, and nothing was done. This is December 2015. So I think most definitely, we need to, all be Anais. We need to all do these things. We need to all be Banksy. We need to all be Mark Zuckerberg and make a stand for something. Absolutely. But I come back to the simple fact that Nigerians have been killing Nigerians since 1960. And every single week, political things happen and people die. And you know what? Nothing ever happens. So I think it's really easy, and this is it's so easy to pontificate how we should be doing more as Nigerians in Nigeria, and we should be doing more. I agree with you, you should be doing more. Come home. No, Oga, come home. Come home and lead the revolution, and we will join you. But if you're sitting in Oxford University pontificating, okay, I can't hear you. So that's one thing. So secondly, and just another narrative. So last month in Nigeria, the Oba, there's one Oba, he died. I don't know where. I think maybe Ikorodu or some region in Western Yoruba, in Yoruba land. All of my staff begged me, can I go home early? Can they go home? Why do you need to go home early? Because as the Oba is dying, they need some human sacrifices for him to go with. That is literally April 2016, Lagos. That is April 2016, Lagos. So, is it art representing life, or life representing art? If you look to Kumawood, Kumawood is incredibly spiritual, it's incredibly sort of good versus evil. There's a witchcraft element there. That is the life that people seem to enjoy. You can't tell people what to enjoy. I believe you're from South Africa. I spent a lot of time in South Africa. Someone was even telling me about, is it Muti? They were telling me about Muti. I didn't even know what it meant. They said, oh, it's like Nigerian voodoo. But again, it's like, I remember last year, I was in South Africa, and there is something which happens, I believe it's in Zululand, where the young men, they go into the mountains and become men. And like every couple of years, people die. Whatever they're doing in the mountains, no one really knows, but people die there. Am I telling the story wrong, or has that actually happened? So we are who we are, irrespective of the narrative. I think if you try to portray something different, and again, this is why Nollywood is so powerful. It's like you give the people what they actually like understand. If you try to create a new narrative for them, then they won't understand. And that's why I said Nollywood is something where like vast majority of people, especially the most educated people in the West, reject it. The vast majority of people in Africa, Nigeria, French-speaking, East Africa, South Africa, they've embraced it. So again, it's like you guys are the people who don't enjoy Nollywood are actually the vast minority. So, I think it's like I'm an educated person. I have rational thought. I can be objective. Like I can have a really long debate with anybody and give you like specific examples. Like I'm not just here sort of like banging a drum and evangelizing nothing. Like I can have an argument with anybody specifically about things which relate to like not just Nigeria but other parts of Africa. So we can ultimately accept the way the world is today, or we could get really upset about the way the world we think it should be. And like, as I said, like I'm a massive fan of what this guy is doing. Like straight up, like I'm not gonna do it. I'm not that guy. I'm not gonna do it. So please, again, brother, we're with you. Like, no, seriously, we're with you. No, Oga, please come to Nigeria. We need you. In fact, we need you for the last 60 years. Come and save us because we need saving.
Well, this is what I think about all this. Look, America. First of all, how many years is our independence in Africa? We are about 50, 60 years. America, 400, 500 years. And you go through American history, you've realized that people have laid their lives to make those changes. Nellie Blair and co. all did undercover work to make sure that, you see, society is such that, and I agree perfectly with Jason, that indeed our people want to see their Kumawood, they want to see their Nollywood. I'm only asking that, can we begin to say, yes, we want our Kumawood and we want our Nollywood, but can we just turn it a little bit and try to shape their thinking in a way? I think that is possible. Look, 15 years ago, that's when I did my first undercover work in Ghana. What happened? 260 children were rescued from a brothel. I went undercover as a pimp in the brothel and all that. And their various clients were all arrested. We finished this operation at about 12 p.m., midnight. I came home. The next morning I got up at 6 a.m. The first news item was that all these people had been released. That's 15 years ago. So I'm trying to say that to make that change, it doesn't come easy. People have died for it. We can't tell ourselves that it's not going to work. We cannot. There is a way of making it happen, and we can never get it right unless we decide that we want to sacrifice. And I can never do it alone if I don't have Jason's support. I can't. Because Jason has that content that moves the masses. And I'm going to give you two examples. I did Spirit Children, where children were killed, child infanticide. They were given concoctions by their parents, and because they said they've been born with deformities, and they are fed with this concoction, and they are killed. A child could be born very intelligent. They say, look, if a child of 6 months, 1 year is able to mention the names of all these people in this village, then the child must be a witch. Off, they kill the child. Spell of albino. We believe that the body of an albino child would make us instantly rich. But again, what was their fear? Their fear was that there was a spiritualist, and again, voodoo and all that you want to call it, who does all this. What did I do? I went and filmed these people, put them on camera. Now, when the film was done, we showed it in the various communities. It was time for community to start thinking, oh, this man we have respected for the last 60 years. Jason, did you say 60 years? Nigeria needed me 60 years ago. Yes, this person we all believed 60 years ago was the most powerful person. Here is he. He's been caught on camera. Apparently, he was lying about a prosthetic child and said we should kill that prosthetic child. So you see, it is not going to happen in a flash. But gradually, we can begin to change people's perception as we take our steps forward. It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be an easy step. But I tell you, if I have my brother here with me, we are going to do it.
All right, so I'm sorry. So we have a drinks reception that's coming up, and it will be a really great time for you to actually come up to Anas and to come up to Jason and speak to them about some of the things that they've put out today. I just wanted to offer some closing remarks before we just give out awards for the innovators that you voted for. So thank you so much for listening to this panel. Thank you so much too. I think the key takeaway is that we've been looking at governance and youth leadership and business, and here we are talking about not just the synergies, because we've spoken about how Jason and Anas probably need each other, but we're also talking about the tensions, and those tensions are also very important to explore. And so thank you so much for your participation, and I hope that you will bombard them with questions later. Yeah. Sorry, the Innovation Fair Awards will be in here, and so right now, actually, there's a huge check. So we'd like to invite Higher Life Foundation representatives to the front. We need to, and we'll start the award ceremony.
I think this one's on. Okay. Yeah, okay. This isn't on. Okay. It's on? Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. For those of you I've not had a chance to meet, my name is Susie, and I'm one of the co-chairs for this year's Oxford Africa Conference. It's my honor today to introduce Tanya Masiwa to present the winner of the Innovation Fair. The Innovation Fair was one of my favorite parts of the conference last year because I felt it really brought some fresh and new insights into some really exciting initiatives happening in the continent, and I hope that you've all enjoyed it just as much. Before we present the final award, I'd also like to say thank you to our head of the Innovation Fair, Nicole Sparks. It's a lot of work put into contacting people, Skype interviews, kind of booking their flights, making sure everyone is here and that you can meet them. So I'd like to thank you sincerely for that. And so now I'll hand it off to Tanya to introduce the winner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to say a big congratulations to all of our 10 participants for the Innovation Fair. I think it's only fair to give them a hand. So the winner of this year's Innovation Fair for the Oxford Africa Conference goes to a well-deserving, not that any of the others were not deserving, but it's an amazing business that is hopefully going to become an amazing social enterprise one day that we'll all be able to read about. I would like to present this award to Solar.
All right, We have come to the end of our conference-y part of the conference. What will follow this is a drinks reception where you can find Jason and find Anas and speak to them about all the things that you needed to ask them. And so for now, we just want to say a few closing remarks, a few thank yous, because there's so many people who've been involved in putting this together. Special thanks to Touch Road and Higher Life Foundation once again. I think that when people give us the resources to be able to bring this kind of content and these kinds of people to the University of Oxford and to bring innovators from across Africa and bring speakers from across the world, they really do something that's great for us. And so can we give a round of applause to Touch Road, Higher Life Foundation, to the Oxford University Press for specially curating a lot of our education panels, to the Vice Chancellor's Office at the University of Oxford, to the Blavatnik School of Government for hosting us, and to the Oxford Union, which was our home yesterday. Thank you so much to our sponsors.
Everyone. I'd also like to extend my thank yous to our committee and our team of volunteers. Without all of you, this would not have been possible. Like Yasmin said this morning, it's kind of a crazy thing to do, to spend 8 months working on organizing a conference for 2 days alongside a full-time academic degree. And so, in particular, I'd like to also thank the support of the Oxford Africa Society, Yasmin Kumi, our president, and Mokhtar Kane, our vice president. You guys have done amazing work supporting us, and our senior advisory board as well, particularly Ralphu Mustafa, Stefan Durkhan, Alistair McDonald, and all the other academics who are supporting this conference here. I hope that you guys have had an amazing 2 days and had some really incredible discussions. Kind of hearing everyone talking inside and outside of sessions has been what has made it worth it, all this work. So thank you so much for coming. And also I'd like to urge you to enjoy the delicious West African food we have during the reception, and also our after party tonight at Emporium. I hope to see many of you there. Thank you.
So to those I haven't met, my name is Rubembo Nyangoni, and I'm an MBA student at the Said Business School. I'm here to thank the speakers who have been speaking and sharing unique insights with you today. I think they have been really great, and the process in engaging them has been fairly interesting. I thank them for their patience, because 8 months ago we were selling them a vision. It was just a story and we didn't have anyone, but they have been patient to work with us, and for them to come here and sacrifice a lot, leaving behind families, businesses, a lot of things. We're really grateful for that commitment. I'd also like to thank the delegates, because without your questions, without you being here, this would not all be possible. We are here because of you. We believed in this vision 8 months ago, and it is such a privilege and an honor to see all of you here today. So thank you for coming, thank you for contributing, thank you for sharing your insights, and we hope to see you again next year.
One last point before we let you enjoy your drinks. For those of you I haven't had the privilege to meet, my name is Mokhtar Kane, and I'm Vice President of the Africa Society. Organizing an event of this kind requires volunteering a great amount of time to making things happen, and a lot of hard work and commitment. And certainly from the session you participated in yesterday to today, to the inspiring speeches and session we had today, none of this would have been possible without the dedication, hard work, and commitment of 3 young, bright, beautiful and hardworking and committing ladies sitting by my side here today. And on behalf of the rest of the committee, I'd like to invite here our president, Yasmin Kumi, who prepared a little thing for you, our coaches, to congratulate them and show our immense gratefulness for the hard work and commitment to the dedication in the service of Africa. Thank you.
Made sure that there's red flowers in the bouquet
because in Oxford, if you have been to Oxford before, we have carnations during exams. Carnations are flowers you put onto your academic dress before you write an exam, and the red flower is for the last exam. And I think just like everyone goes into the last exam with a lot of feeling of freedom and happiness of achievement in the hope of getting a degree, I think it's only fair to say that they've achieved a lot with closing this last session and being able to say that they have organized a truly amazing conference. So thank you once again, and I hope you enjoy your gift. All right, let's make our way to the forum. There will be drinks and there will be food.